Hi, this is Ike from Groovy Entertainment. Today we got another book to read for you. Today's book is Scrooge and the Golden Eggs for 1990. So let's get started. One bright spring day, Donald bought a goose for Grandma Duck. It was a very beautiful goose. As Donald was walking to Grandma's farm with the goose, he didn't notice his nephew, Huey, Dewey, and Louie. They were playing baseball beside the road. Look, said Huey, Uncle Donald is carrying a goose. It looks like the goose is our book about Jack and the Beanstalk, said Dewey. Yes, agreed Louie. Do you think it lays golden eggs, like the one in the book? He wondered. Proudly, said Dewey. It looked just like that goose. The boys were so interested in the goose that they didn't hear Scrooge McDuck come up behind them. Scrooge listened to them talking about the special goose and the golden eggs. What if it's true? Scrooge asked himself. If that goose does lay golden eggs, I must have it. Scrooge caught up with Donald. Good morning, Donald, he said in a friendly voice. Good morning, Uncle Scrooge, Donald replied. My, that's a beautiful goose you have there, said Scrooge. Why, thank you, said Donald. It is a lovely bird. I'd like to buy that goose from you, said Scrooge. Sorry, Uncle Scrooge, Donald replied. I'm giving it to Grandma. Here now, Donald, said Scrooge. I'll pay you twice what you paid for it. You can buy Grandma another goose. You want to give me twice what I paid? Asked Donald. He was puzzled why would Uncle Scrooge pay him more than the goose was worth. Then he thought to himself, well, it's Uncle Scrooge's money after all. He must know what he is doing. And if I sell this goose, I can buy two just like it for Grandma. So Donald agreed to sell the goose. Uncle Scrooge set off for home. Now he had the special goose. Surely soon he would have golden eggs too. He. Scrooge laughed to himself. When the goose lays its golden eggs, I, the richest duck in the world, will be even richer. When Scrooge got back to his mansion, he gave the cook and butler the day off. Then he pulled down all the window shades and locked all the doors. I wouldn't want anyone else to find out about my goose, he said to himself. Scrooge set the goose on the floor. Then he waited for the golden eggs. Nothing happened. Well, Scrooge said to the goose, what are you going to start laying some eggs? And I mean some golden eggs. The goose looked at Scrooge with its bright brown eyes. It gave a sharp honk. Still nothing happened. No eggs appeared. Scrooge began to get upset. How do I get this goose to lay eggs? He wondered. He fought and fought. Then he said, I have it. I'll call Grandma Duck. She has a farm. She must know how to make a goose lay eggs. So Scrooge called Grandma. Without even saying hello, he asked, how do I get a goose to lay eggs? Why do you want to know about geese, Scrooge? Grandma asked. Please, Grandma, just tell me how. He said, well, said Grandma, you must make sure the goose is not too cold, not too hot, not too hungry, and it needs a lot of exercise. Scrooge wrote down what Grandma told him and quickly said goodbye. Just then, Grandma heard a knock at her door. It was Donald. He had brought her two beautiful white geese. Why, thank you, Donald, said Grandma. Isn't this strange? I was just talking to Scrooge about geese. I guess that's because I just sold him one, said Donald. He paid me twice what it was worth. Goodness, said Grandma. Isn't it like Scrooge to pay more than a goose is worth? I wonder why. he wanted a goose so bad? I don't know, said Donald. Maybe he wanted some goose eggs for breakfast. Meanwhile, Scrooge was trying to get the golden goose to lay golden eggs. Look at his, Looking at his notes, he read, "Not too cold. Perhaps it is a little cold in here." So Scrooge set the goose in his favorite chair. He lit a fire in the fireplace and pulled the chair closer to the fire. Next, he covered the goose with a nice soft blanket. Then he sat back to wait for the golden eggs. The goose began to get warm. It held its wings away from its body. Its feathers started to droop. The goose looked at Scrooge, but it laid not one egg. Scrooge was pretty warm himself. He looked at his note again. He read, "Not too hot." Oops. Quickly, Scrooge pulled the blanket off the poor goose. Then he put the fire and moved the chair away from the fireplace. Scrooge ran to the kitchen. He returned with a bag full of ice and placed it on the goose's head. Then he turned on a fan and pointed it right at the goose. "There," he said, "you should be cooler now." In no time at all, the goose cooled off. Then it began to shiver. He fluffed up its feathers. The goose held its wing close to its side. Its beak began to turn blue, but it laid not one egg. By this time, Scrooge had pulled a blanket over his shoulder to keep himself warm. Again, he read over Grandma's notes. "Not too hungry," he read. That must be it. Scrooge turned off the fan. He took the ice bags from the goose's head. Then he hurried to the kitchen to make some nice hot soup. "Here you are, Goose," he said, setting the soup bowl in front of the goose. The goose stared at Scrooge with bright brown eyes, but it did not eat, and it did not lay one egg. "What do I have to do to make you lay eggs?" Scrooge cried. I want some of those golden eggs." The goose just stared back at Scrooge. What else did Grandma say to do? Scrooge wondered, need exercise, that's it. The next thing the poor goose knew, it was running around outside. Scrooge was running after it. As Scrooge chased the goose, he said, "If it's exercise you need, then it's exercise you get." Finally, Scrooge had to rest, so the goose gradually settled down to rest too. But the goose laid not one single egg. None of Grandma's ideas had worked. Scrooge couldn't think of anything else to do. How was he to get the golden eggs out of this goose? Just then, Scrooge remembered his nephew talking about a book, Jack and the Beanstalk. Maybe the secret of the golden eggs was in that book. Quickly, Scrooge went to his bookshelf and took down the book. He opened it to the picture of the goose. Sure enough, the goose was laying golden eggs. Scrooge ran out to the backyard with the book. He pushed the pages of the goose laying a golden egg under his own goose beak. "See this?" he shouted. "This is what you are supposed to do." The goose looked at the book. Then it looked up at Scrooge. The goose blinked its eyes, but it laid not one egg. Scrooge looked at the book again. Maybe if he acted a little more like a giant, his goose would act a little more like a goose that could lay golden eggs. So Scrooge grew up as tall as he could. He had read the giant words from the book. "Lay, goose, lay." He used his loudest voice. The goose began to look very unhappy. It ruffled its feather. The goose wasn't used to people yelling at it in loud voices. It stared straight at Scrooge. Then it gave a loud honk, but laid not one egg. Scrooge could not stand it no longer. Lay, goose, lay, he shouted, jumping up and down, waving his arm. The goose gave another loud, frightening honk. It flapped its great wings. It took off in the air, and not one egg had it laid. Just then Donald came by Uncle Scrooge. He called, "How are you getting along with your new goose?" "That silly goose flew away," moaned Scrooge, "and it didn't lay one golden egg." "Golden eggs?" replied Donald. "Real geese don't lay golden eggs. That only happened in fairy tales." Suddenly Scrooge understood how silly he had been, but he didn't want his nephew to know too. "Good old eggs, I said," Scrooge shouted. "It didn't lay one good old egg." "Well," said Donald, as he watched the goose disappear in the sky, "I'm sorry you lost your goose, Uncle Scrooge. I'll be glad to get you another one if you give me twice what I paid for it again." This was more than Scrooge McDuck could stand. He went back inside his mansion and slammed the door. "If I hadn't been so greedy," he thought sadly, "I wouldn't have lost my money or my goose." He began to feel better when he got to his money room. It was the one place that he could always make himself feel better. "I may be poorer than I was before," he told himself, "but I'm still the richest duck in the world." So that was Scrooge and the Golden Egg for 1990. So if you like, subscribe, share, and comment, have a groovy day, but another video coming out real soon.